The Telltale Heart. True, nervous, very, very dreadfully nervous. I had been and am, but why will you say that I am mad? The disease had sharpened my senses, not destroyed, not dulled them. Above all was a sense of hearing acute. I heard all things in the heaven and in the earth. I heard many things in hell. How, then, am I mad? Hearken, and observe how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the whole story. It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain, but once conceived, it haunted me day and night. Object there was none. Passion there was none. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me. He had never given me insult. For his gold I had no desire. I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. One of his eyes resembled that of a vulture, a pale blue eye with a film over it. Whenever it fell upon me, my blood ran cold, and so by degrees, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man, and thus rid myself of the eye forever. Now, this is the point. You fancy me mad. Madmen know nothing. But you should have seen me. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded, with what caution, with what foresight, with what dissimulation I went to work. I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him. And every night, about midnight, I turned the latch of his door and opened it, oh so gently. And then, when I had made an opening sufficient for my head, I put in a dark lantern, all closed, so that no light shone out. Then I thrust in my head. Oh, you would have laughed to see how cunningly I thrust it in. Oof. I moved it slowly, very, very slowly, so that I might not disturb the old man's sleep. It took me an hour to place my whole head within the opening, so far that I could see him as he lay upon his bed. Ha! Would a madman have been so wise as this? And then, when my head was well in the room, I undid the lantern cautiously. Oh, so cautiously. Cautiously, for the hinges creaked. I undid it just so much that a single thin ray fell upon the vulture eye. And this I did for 7 long nights. Every night just at midnight. But I found the eye always closed, and so it was impossible to do the work, for it was not the old man who vexed me, but his evil eye. And every morning, when the day broke, I went boldly into the chamber and spoke courageously to him, calling him by name in a hearty tone, and inquiring how he had passed the night. So you see, he would have been a very profound old man, indeed, to suspect that every night, just at 12, I looked in upon him while he slept. Upon the 8th night, I was more than usually cautious. In opening the door, a watch's minute hand moves more quickly than did mine. Never before that night had I felt the extent of my own powers, of my sagacity. I could scarcely contain my feelings of triumph. To think that there I was, opening the door, little by little, and he not even to dream of my secret deeds or thoughts. I fairly chuckled at the idea, and perhaps he heard me, for he moved on the bed suddenly, as if startled. Now, you may think that I drew back, but no. His room was as pitch as black with a thick darkness, for the shutters were closed, fastened, through fear of robbers, and so I knew he could not see the opening of the door, and I kept pushing it on steadily. I had in my head and was about to open the lantern when my thumb slipped upon the tin fastening. The old man sprang up in the bed, crying out, "Who's there?" I kept quite still and said nothing. For a whole hour I did not move a muscle. And in the meantime, I did not hear him lie down. He was still sitting up in the bed, listening, just as I have done night after night, hearkening to the death watches in the wall. Presently, I heard a slight groan, and I knew it was the groan of a mortal terror. It was not a groan of pain or of grief. Oh no, it was the low, stifled sound that arises from the bottom of the soul. When overcharged with awe, I knew the sound well. Many a night, just at midnight, when all the world slept, it was welled up from my own bosom, deepening with its dreadful echo the terrors that distracted me. I say I knew it well. I knew what the old man felt, and pitied him, although I chuckled at heart. I knew that he had been lying awake ever since the first slight noise. When he had turned in the bed, his fears had been ever since growing upon him. He had been trying to fancy them causeless, but could not. He had been saying to himself, "It is nothing but the wind in the chimney. It is only a mouse crossing the floor. Or it is merely a cricket which has made a single chirp." Yes, he has been trying to comfort himself with these suppositions. But he had found all in vain, because death, in approaching him, had stalked with his black shadow before him and enveloped the victim, and it was the mournful influence of the unperceived shadow that caused him to feel, although he never saw nor heard, to feel the presence of my head within the room. When I had waited a long time, very patiently, without hearing him lie down, I resolved to open a very, very little crevice in the lantern. So I opened it. You cannot imagine how stealthily, until at length a single dim ray, like the thread of a spider, shot out the crevice and fell upon the vulture eye. It was open, wide open, and I grew furious as I gazed upon it. I saw it with perfect distinctness, all a dull blue, with a hideous veil over it that chilled the very marrow in my bones. But I could see nothing else, for the old man's face or person, for I had directed the ray as if by instinct precisely upon the damned spot. And now, have I not told you that what you mistake for madness is but over acuteness of the senses? Now I say, there came to my ears a low, dull, quick sound, such as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I knew that sound well. It was the beating of the old man's heart. It increased my fury, as the beating of a drum simulates a soldier into courage. But yet, I refrained and kept still. I scarcely breathed. I held the lantern motionless. I tried how steadily I could maintain the ray upon the eye. Meantime, the hellish tattoo of the heart increased. It grew quicker and quicker and louder every instant. The old man's terror must have been extreme. It grew louder, I say, louder every moment. Do you mark me well? I have told you that I am nervous, so I am. And now, at the dead hour of the night, amid the dreadful silence of that old man's house, so strange a noise as this excited me to uncontrollable terror. Yet, for some minutes longer, I refrained and stood still. But the beating grew louder. I thought the heart must burst, and now a new anxiety seized me. The sound would be heard by a neighbor. The old man's hour had come. With a loud yell, I threw open the lantern and leapt into the room. He shrieked once. Only once. In an instant, I dragged him to the floor and pulled the heavy bed over him. I then smiled gaily to find the deed so far done. But for many minutes, the heart beat on with a muffled sound. This, however, did not vex me. It would not be heard through the wall. At length, it ceased. The old man was dead. I removed the bed and examined the corpse. Yes, he was stone. Stone dead. I placed my hand upon the heart and held it there many minutes. There was no pulsation. He was stone dead. His eye would trouble me no more. If still you think me mad, you will think so no longer when I describe the wise precautions I took for the concealment of the body. The night waned, and I worked hastily, but in silence. First of all, I dismembered the corpse. I cut off the head and the arms and legs. I then took up 3 planks from the flooring of the chamber and deposited all between the scantlings. I then replaced the boards so cleverly, so cunningly, that no human eye, not even his, could have detected anything wrong. There was nothing to wash out, no stain of any kind, no blood spot whatsoever. I had been too wary for that. A tub had caught all. When I had made an end of these labors, it was 4 o'clock, still dark as midnight. As the bells sounded the hour, there came a knocking at the street door. I went down to open it with a light heart for what I had now to fear. There entered 3 men who introduced themselves with perfect suavity as officers of the police. A shriek had been heard by a neighbor during the night. Suspicion of foul play had been aroused. Information had been lodged at the police office. They, the officers, had been deputed to search the premises. I smiled. For what had I to fear? I bade the gentleman welcome. The shriek, I said, was my own in a dream. The old man I mentioned was absent in the country. I took my visitors all over the house. I bade them search well. I led them, at length, to his chamber. I showed them his treasures, secure, undisturbed, in the enthusiasm of my confidence. I brought chairs into the room and desired them here to rest their fatigues, while I myself, in the wild audacity of my perfect triumph, placed my own seat upon the very spot beneath which reposed the corpse of the victim. The officers were satisfied. My manner had convinced them. I was singularly at ease. They sat, and while I answered cheerily, they chatted of familiar things. But ere long, I felt myself getting pale, and wished them gone. My head ached, and I fancied a ringing in my ears. But still, they sat and still chatted. The ringing became more distinct. It continued and became more distinct. I talked more freely to get rid of the feeling, but it continued and gained definiteness, until at length I found that noise was not within my ears. No doubt, I now grew very pale, but I talked more fluently and with a heightened voice, yet the sound increased. What could I do? It was a dull, quick sound, much such a sound as a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I gasped for breath, and yet the officers heard it not. I talked more quickly, more vehemently, but the noise steadily increased. I arose and argued about trifles, in a high key and with violent gesticulations, but the noise steadily increased. Why would they not be gone? I paced the floor to and fro with heavy strides, as if excited to fury by the observations of the men, but the noise steadily increased. Oh God, what could I do? I foamed, I raved, I swore. I swung the chair upon which I had been sitting and grated up the boards, but the noise arose over all and continually increased. It grew louder, 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 and still the men chatted pleasantly and smiled. Was it possible they heard not? Almighty God, no, they heard, they suspected, they knew. They were making a mockery of my horror. This I thought, and this I think. But anything was better than this agony. Anything was more tolerable than this derision. I could bear those hypocritical smiles no longer. I felt that I must scream or die. And now, again, hark, louder, 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 louder. Villains, I shrieked. Dissemble no more. I admit the deed. Tear up the planks. Here, it is the beating of his hideous heart. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage against the dying of the light. Though wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men, the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight, and learn too late they grieved it on its way. Do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men, near death, who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my father, there on the sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. If you give a mouse a cookie, the mouse will ask for a glass of milk. When you give the mouse the milk, he will ask you for a straw. When the mouse is finished, he will ask for a napkin. The mouse will want to look in a mirror to see if he has a milk mustache. When the mouse looks in the mirror, the mouse will see his hair needs a trim. After the mouse trims his hair, the mouse will want a broom. The mouse might sweep every room in the house. The mouse then will want to take a nap. You will have to find him a little box with a blanket and a pillow. The mouse will make himself comfortable and will ask you to read a story. He will ask to see the picture and will want to draw. The mouse will draw with crayons and paper. When the picture is finished, the mouse will want to sign his name with a pen. The mouse will want to hang his picture on the refrigerator, so the mouse will ask for tape. The mouse will hang up his picture and look at it. The mouse will remember that he is thirsty and ask for a glass of milk. With the glass of milk, he will want a cookie. The end. If I Thought by Donna Schwartz. If I thought for just one moment that this would be my last breath, I'd tell you that I love you forever, even beyond death. If I'd thought for just one moment that your face would be the last I'd see, I'd take 1,000,000 pictures and save them just for me. If I thought for just one moment that your voice would be the last I'd hear, I'd listen attentively and promise not to shed a tear. If I thought for just one moment that your touch would be the last I'd feel, I'd embrace you and know that this has all been real. If I thought for just one moment that my heart would beat its last beat, I'd thank the Lord for allowing us to meet. Look at the beauty in your eyes, a glow that shines like the sunrise. Your smile opens up the cloudy skies. Your laughter delights butterflies. The ocean greets you as you pass by. Your gorgeous toes leave their mark, saying goodbye. Gentle breeze through your hair. You walk elegantly while astonished eyes all stare. Rosy cheeks cover your face. A flower child blossoms, kindly accepting embrace. You are a thornless rose without compare. You are the love my heart will forever endear. Let Me by Randy Batakin. Let me take care of your broken heart and show you how to fly Let me hold you gently by the hand and kiss your tears goodbye. Let me lead you to tomorrow's light and out of needless rain. 'Cause all I want right now is to see you smile again. Let me sing you all the songs I wrote till you sleep in my embrace, and I'll keep you safe and warm until the sunlight strokes your face. Let me bring you up the mountain's peak, and I'll let you touch the skies, to remind you of the strength I see when I look into your eyes. Let me kiss and show you what is love and the happiness it brings. You'll sail again like a butterfly, endowed with pretty wings. Let me do all of these to let you see our fates are intertwined. You're the accidental precious gem I've waited long to find. The earth and sky conspire to make us meet. They knew we both belong to each other like words and lovely notes give life to every song. So fly with me, my beautiful one. It's time we leave the past. I'm yours to keep, and you are mine. We're finally home at last. Mila's Song by Kenneth D. Heatley. Whenever you're in danger or feeling down and blue, I'll be there to hold your hand. Yes, I'll be there with you. I would keep you safe and sound, my arms around your waist. You would feel my heart beat fast as gently touch your face. If you were in a fairy tale, you'd be my damsel in distress. I would be wearing shining armor, and you a long white dress. I would battle fierce dragons and other monsters too. All these things and much, much more I would do for you. I would take you on my steed, though forests dark and wild, with ferocious beasts and demons too. I'll be there by your side. My sword will be ready to keep you safe from harm. I'll fight the world just for you. I'll be your lucky charm. I'll build a castle strong and high to keep the wolves at bay, for all our lives to live there, where I will love you more each day. Where we will live like king and queen, in songs of love they'd sing, all dedicated to the one I love, and this song for you I bring. Tick tock, tick tock. Life is counting down on your eternal clock. Memories that feel as if they occurred yesterday turn to flashes of moments that seem to fade away. People you once knew walked by without a clue. The times you once shared exist as if you were never there. Years fly, friends die, and you never know when you'll say your last goodbye. Oh, how I wish I could turn back time. Spend it with the loved ones and cherished what once was mine. Or to go back even more, being a kid in a candy store. How I miss the way I used to feel on a Christmas day when Santa was real. But back to reality, back to today. Family is scarce, and memories continue to fade away. Tick tock, tick tock. How I wish I could control this clock.